Hello, and welcome to the Michigan State Road session at MBA Spotlight. My name is Chris, and I'm your host. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Kara Trippi uh, from Road. She'll uh, provide overview of the full-time MBA program, and then uh, afterwards we'll do a Q&A. Yeah, so please put your questions in the Q&A section and upvote them. And why don't I pass it to you, Claire?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. As Chris mentioned, my name is Kara Trippi. I am the Director of Admissions here for the Broad Full-Time MBA at Michigan State University. I appreciate you taking the time today to learn a little bit more about our program. I know there's many institutions joining the Spotlight Fair today. Everybody does something a little bit different. So I will go through and definitely mention why you should consider Broad and some of the admissions pieces on that. Of course, as Chris said, please ask any question that might be on your mind. Two questions that we typically get right off the gate is, do we offer GMAT waivers? Yes, we do. And do we offer application fee waivers? Yes, we do. So by joining us today, you will receive an application fee waiver. The GMAT Club typically provides the names of those who joined the session, and then we apply that in the back end. So we will jump right in. Hopefully, you've done a little bit of research on Michigan State, but if not, we are a extremely large Midwest institution located in mid-Michigan. So we're located in East Lansing. We are the largest institution in the state of Michigan when it comes to amount of students. So currently we have over 51,000 students here at Michigan State. However, the MBA is a little bit smaller than that. Currently, we have 135 students split between our first year and second year MBA students. We typically aim to bring in a class every fall around 60 to 80. So I always say you get the best of both worlds when you come to Michigan State University for your MBA. You get the large institutional resources of a Big Ten school in a small packaged cohort MBA. As an MBA student, you do get every single Michigan State resource. So that includes athletic tickets, that includes the 1,200 student organizations on campus, that includes all the career services components. So it is a really great place to be. I also say that we are the best value within the Big Ten. So when you look at cost of attendance and also career outcomes after the MBA program, we perform very well in that. Now, just a little bit about what makes the Broad MBA different. We perform very well in the rankings. We are most notable for supply chain management, where we have been ranked number 1 for our MBA concentration the last 13 years by US News and World Report. However, we do have other top ranked concentrations as well, and we'll go into what those concentrations will be on the next few slides. We are also a top ranked public institution in the United States, number 8 by Financial Times, and the only program in the state of Michigan ranked by Financial Times. So we're happy to say that. Financial Times typically ranks universities by salary increase after graduation. So again, when you're looking at rankings, you want to make sure you know what that ranking entails and how that institution is being ranked. Number 9 for US public institutions by Forbes, too. So, again, we are a powerhouse when it comes to global MBA recognition. This is just a snapshot of what our typical class profile looks like. So, our class of 2026, that is the class that just entered this fall, has 71 students. Again, when you're speaking about where you should fall within criteria for admissions, it's a really good start to look at the class profile because we want you to be usually at or above that class profile. So commonly I get asked about, do I need years of work experience? We typically want to see 2 years of post undergraduate work experience. Our average this year was 3.6. So you will see students above that, you will see students below that. If you're on the call right now and you don't have any work experience, and maybe you're about to graduate this spring, please send me an email, and we can discuss what that looks like. Typically, we're going to accept 10% or less of our cohort with no work experience. And those students that have no work experience typically have really incredible internship experience. Maybe they've started their own company during their undergraduate years. Maybe they started a patent process. So, again, it is really just dependent upon the student. GPA is on a 4.0 scale. If you're applying as an international student and maybe your GPA is on a 100-point scale, maybe it's a percentage, we absolutely know how to convert that on the back end, and we will convert it on the back end for you. So we don't accept WES evaluations. So please send your unofficial transcripts in and enter your GPA as it is, and we will convert it on the back end for you. If you are admitted, then we do require official transcripts, but prior to that, we only require unofficial. 3.45, again, students are going to be below that. Students will be well above that. So I don't want you to count yourself out if you're not at that 3.4. Talking about standardized tests, as I mentioned before we even started this presentation, yes, we do grant GMAT waivers. It's a really easy process within our application. You will just select that you are applying with a waiver, and anybody who checks that box will be reviewed as a waiver candidate. Now, there are some advantages of applying with a standardized test. Obviously, first and foremost is the admission component. So if you are applying from a geographical location where it is quite competitive, right? We receive a lot of applications from Nigeria. We receive a lot of applications from India. And students typically do take standardized tests coming from those geographical locations. We are going to compare you against your peers in which those geographical locations come from, right? So that's the most equitable way to review candidates. Same for if a student was applying from Michigan, we would evaluate them based upon the geographical location in which they're coming from, because education is different in Michigan than it is in India, Mexico, etc. The second component of taking a standardized test is finances. So all of our scholarships and fellowships are dependent upon merit. So students that have higher merit-based profiles are going to have higher academic or higher merit-based academics, right? So GPA, GMAT, years of work experience, they're going to receive a higher scholarship and fellowship, right? So a lot of times I'm asked, do you give full tuition scholarships? We do, but typically those students will have an extremely high GMAT or GRE score. They'll have a very high GPA and impressive work experience, okay? Now, the scores reflected before you are for the GMAT focus scores. If you've taken a traditional GMAT, those tend to be good for 5 years from the date in which you've taken it. So if you took it last fall, you took the traditional GMAT last fall, we will honor that. You can convert that score, that again, 615 or 625 on the old GMAT score. Their GMAT has a standardized test scoring matrix available on their website. We accept the GRE too, so you can submit with the GRE if you'd like. And then for our joint degree, we do have a joint degree program with the law school as well as our 2 medical schools, so the DO and MD. So we will accept the LSAT as well as the MCAT. If you are on the line and you have questions about that joint degree program, I'm happy to connect with you offline and talk more about that. But just know that you do need to be admitted first to both the law school and our medical schools before you can pursue the MBA. So a lot of times I'll see applicants say, yes, I have an interest in this, and they raise their hand. That's great, but if you're not admitted to those other professional programs at Michigan State, you're not eligible for the joint degree, okay? You can see the breakdown in some diversity statistics as well. So we do absolutely accept international candidates and their applications. That's a question that I get asked frequently as well. So if you have questions about the international piece, happy to answer those. So, as I mentioned, we have multiple concentrations. I do want to say that your concentrations are only 12 credit hours out of the 61 here at Michigan State. We are a 2-year program. So, the first year, you're going to take those foundational based courses. The second year, that's when you take your concentration base as well as your elective based courses. We are STEM designated, which means for international students, you would receive 3 years of OPT instead of the 1 year of OPT. So, 3 years you would get to stay in the United States as long as you are employed with a STEM designated employer. For STEM designation, you would need to select one of 3 concentrations. That would be finance, marketing, or supply chain. If you are a non-STEM MBA student, you can choose whatever concentration that you would like. We did launch sustainability this year, so that is a new concentration within the MBA program. If you had questions about what these concentrations entail, we do have a really wonderful breakdown available on our website that shows you every single class that you would take to receive this concentration. As I said earlier, we're most noted for supply chain. So many of our students will go into supply chain management after the program. However, we also are really well recognized for marketing. At the MS level, we're #1 in marketing research. And then for HR management, we're one of 8 MBA programs in the country that offer a concentration in HR. So our students do perform very well in HR. We have lots of connections with HR. So, outside of academics, we really want you to understand the what and the why of real world application. So, many of our faculties bring in integrative experiences from their professional life in resource and research. So, we do want you to have that hands on experience during the MBA program. This is not a thesis based program, this is a very practical based program. So, we do this in a few different ways. Most notably, you will hear about Extreme Green. The easiest way to describe Extreme Green is mini consulting projects throughout your 2-year experience. So, this is a course that is highly accelerated, and you will partner with an external partner like TechSmith or a nonprofit, and you will do a consulting project with them. Additionally, we do different treks. We have a tech trek that we do. We have a supply chain trek that we do. Just last week, our students came back from Traverse City, Michigan, which is in northern Michigan, regarding supply chain. So there are multiple ways for you to get involved outside of the classroom. We will bring you in as a individual, but then we will put you on a team of 4 to 6 individuals, and about 80% of your work the first year of the program will be team based. So, this is a very collaborative experience. I always say that this is a we MBA program, not a me MBA program. So, we want you to enhance your team leadership through that team dynamic. It is highly encouraged that all students do an internship between their first and second year. Our career management team, which I'll talk about here in a second, will hit the ground running with you to help you with that internship placement. And then we do offer a global immersion. Every year during our spring break week, we offer an international business course called the Global Marketplace, where we take students abroad for that week and they visit different mom and pop shops to multi-billion-dollar industries to learn about global business as well as some cultural components as well. So again, you're going through the MBA to make connections to enhance your network. You could do an online MBA, and that would probably be the quickest, cheapest, easiest way to complete your MBA. But we know that you're coming to the full time MBA because you're interested in enhancing your skill base and enhancing that network. So we do this through a few different ways, right? We want you to have that community based feel when you're here. Probably the most notable way outside of the classroom is through our student-led resource groups. So we have many different student-led resource groups here at Michigan State that are only available for MBA students. So again, as I mentioned earlier, MSU as a whole has 1,200 student organizations, but these resource groups are specifically only open to MBA. So you can see that MBA Association is kind of the umbrella association. Then we have DE and I led resource groups as well as professional led resource groups. Most students will get involved in at least one or two of these resource groups. And it's a great way to continue your leadership and networking enhancements because many of these resource groups will bring in outside speakers. Like I said, they'll go on different tracks. They do different connections across campus, but in different organizations. So it is highly encouraged that you not only become involved within the classroom, but outside of the classroom during your time here. So we wouldn't be an MBA program if we didn't talk about career development and life after the MBA. So our Palmer Career Management team works hand in hand with all of our full-time MBA students. Before you come to campus, we will have a orientation in August, but in that May before, you will be introduced to your career coach, who is a member of the Palmer Center. That coach will remain the same throughout your 21-month journey. You will also really prep with them over the summer before you come so you can hit the ground running for that internship experience. Fall comes at you very fast, and you might possibly be doing internship interviews even before you take an academic class here within the MBA program, especially if you are what we call a Forte Fellow and you go to the Forte conference. That conference typically is in June. And again, you won't start courses until end of August, early September. So it's important that you work in tandem with the Palmer Center. They do this in a few different ways. So, again, as I said, you receive your career coach. You also have a second year MBA student who is your peer mentor. They are hired by the Palmer team and they are really great resources for our MBA students because as a second year student, they were in your shoes 12 months ago. They understand the questions that are going to be asked by Amazon, Microsoft, Ford Motor Company. So they're able to guide you through that process as well. And then, of course, we have really strong ties with our alumni. We have one of the largest living alumni bases in the world through Michigan State University. So many of our MBA alum come back to recruit on behalf of their company. So that is really the three-tier approach that they take. Again, it is an extremely hands-on process. I always say the students that take an active approach in their career management have the most success than students that take a passive approach. This is a snapshot of the last 3 years of data that we have collected. So again, this is not an exclusive list. If I listed all of the companies that were top hiring for our students, we would run out of space on the slide. But you can see our students do well in fast moving consumer goods, oil and gas, technology, automotive. So it is a vast variety. You can see the average starting salary and signing bonus. Again, this data refers to 3 months after graduation. This is not a data slide that is your lifetime with having the MBA, right? So I think a lot of times students get caught up on playing the salary game. No one is telling you that the job that you get after the MBA is going to be your forever job or it's going to be your forever salary, okay? We do have a breakdown on our website of historical data based upon the last year's graduating class, geographical location, industry, placement regarding that. So if you were wondering, what does somebody in supply chain that works in California, how much is their salary? That is available on our website under outcomes. Okay, and that will help you with a more realistic view to align your expectations. Now, tuition is the $1 million question, right? Right. And what kind of sponsorship do we give? So we do offer a block tuition structure. So that means every single MBA student pays on a block tuition rate, regardless of how many credits that you take. That being said, we are pretty generous when it comes to scholarships and fellowships. About 75 to 80% of our incoming class will receive some sort of an award from the MBA program. That could be a monetary scholarship, that could be a fellowship, that could be in state tuition waivers if you're international or out of state, and graduate assistantships. Now, I will say our graduate assistantships are quite competitive. We typically only award 9 to 12 per incoming class, but Michigan State has over 3,000 graduate assistantship positions. So students typically, if they don't receive one from us, they try to apply to a Michigan State funded graduate assistantship. Okay, so many opportunities for funding. Application dates, we just released decisions for round one. So those students were notified on Monday if they were admitted or not. Round two is coming up on November 25th. So that means your application needs to be fully complete. So unofficial transcript, your resume, your recommendation form, that should all be complete prior to November 25th. A lot of times students think, oh, if I submit my application by November 25th, I can still upload supplemental materials. No, the application needs to be complete for us to review and have a decision for you by January 31st. Okay. If you have questions about the application process, again, on our website, we do have an application checklist for domestic and international students. It's really helpful and it really lays it out for what you need to be completing. We also have multiple webinars through Michigan State Broad MBA throughout the year regarding like 5 mistakes that MBA candidates typically make, Q&A for best applications submitted. So make sure that you register for those as well. As I mentioned, you will receive an application fee waiver. So typically it costs $85 to apply to the Broad MBA. By attending this session, we will waive that fee for you. So again, if you use the email that you registered for the MBA Spotlight Fair and use the same email for your MBA application at Michigan State, it will automatically attach the waiver on the back end for you. And then this is the admissions team here at Michigan State. Of course, myself, Kara Trippi, I'm the director of admissions. We have Kate Irwin, who's our senior associate director, and she handles a lot of our marketing. And then Beth Thomas is our operations manager. You will hear from Beth quite frequently if you apply because she processes all of our applications as well as the supplemental material. So that is what I have. I know that there's probably some questions that came in. I'll hand it back over to Chris and we can go through some of those questions.
Yeah, just looking at these questions, some might be more going depth, so I'll answer those too. So Harsh is asking, what are the chances of getting a spot and scholarship in round one versus round two, and does it differ?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the terms of being admitted are relatively similar, right? We typically admit the same amount of students per round because we typically see relatively, we'll know what the quality is going to be like, right? Like quality of a round one candidate is typically a little bit different than a quality of a round four candidate because we see sometimes that round four were like their backup school and they're not as competitive as somebody who applies during round one. The same goes for scholarships as well. So you have to imagine in round one, we have this pot of donor money, and then as the rounds go through, more and more students are depositing and saying, raising their hands saying, yep, I accept my scholarship. So by round four, we don't have as much money to award at that point. So if you are interested in scholarships, I always say apply during round one or round two because those will be the most generous scholarships. In terms of admissions, relatively the same amount of candidates are admitted for each round.
Great. Thanks, Kara. And our next question is, okay, Paradise is asking, does applying with GMAT waiver affect scholarship opportunities?
It does. Yep. So students with higher merit-based profiles will receive higher scholarship offers. So if you do submit with a GMAT waiver, you probably will not have as high as a scholarship as somebody who has a high test score. Now it could go the opposite way too, right? If somebody submits with a very low GMAT score or GRE score, their chances of admission could be hindered by that score, whether if they just applied with a waiver. So again, that's why I say look at our class profile. If you are well below the class profile, I would suggest applying to the program with a waiver instead of applying with a very low test score. But for scholarship opportunities, absolutely, they're all based upon merit.
Great. Thanks, Carol. Well, and so this is Karen just asking, I don't have work experience. Can I apply to Broad?
Yeah, typically when it comes to work experience, we want to see 2 years of professional work experience post undergraduate completion. We will accept a handful of students that don't have any work experience. However, they typically have done really amazing things during their undergraduate career. So, really is dependent upon the student, dependent upon their academic journey to the MBA. If you don't have work experience, we absolutely want to see a standardized test score because that indicates to us that you can sign up and commit to something outside of your undergraduate class. So it I would say yes, but maybe not, right? It's really dependent upon the candidate.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Makes sense. And okay, the next question is, I would like to know if there's consideration for admitting mature applicants to Broad. For example, mature from India with 15 years of industry experience.
Yeah, good question. I understand what's being asked. I would remove the word mature because I would hope all of our candidates that are applying are mature in terms of behavioral issues, right? And I would say you'd be more of a veteran candidate because our average years of work experience, right, are usually around 3 to 4 years. However, we do have students that have 15 years or plus of work experience. We have a student right now in the program who is 41 years old, right? So it's really up to that candidate if they feel that they're comfortable in that type of environment, being more of a veteran based student in a younger based program, they absolutely can apply. We would never let age dictate somebody being admitted. Now, I would say age in terms of having multiple years of work experience. Again, we'd like to see at least 2 years of work experience post undergrad. So if you are 20 years old and have 0 years of work experience, yeah, we'd want you to wait a little bit. But if you're on the opposite end of that spectrum and you like this person who has 15 years, go ahead, apply. If you feel that the full-time MBA is going to be valuable for your career, we would never take you out of the running based upon that.
Great. For clarification, thanks for the clarification. And then Syed is asking, can you offer us a free waiver which can be used on other fields like STEM?
Yeah, so the application fee waiver for us for Michigan State will only be for the full-time MBA. That can be the STEM designated full-time MBA as well. But if you were looking to apply to like a master's in accounting, the fee waiver would not apply to that. So at MSU, you can apply to 2 graduate programs at one time. You might be admitted to one and denied from the other. You might be admitted to both, and then you have to make your decision. But the waiver, the application fee waiver, is only for the full time MBA program.
Okay, mark that answered. And then Carol, so this next question is from Anshu. Do you offer a 1 year course as well, like a tech MBA?
We don't have any 1 year MBA programs. Now, we do have certifications. For example, we have a supply chain certification, we have an HR certification, we have a management certification, but we don't have a 1 year MBA at this point. At Michigan State, we offer the executive MBA, which is for working professionals living typically within the United States. And then we have the full time MBA.
And thanks for answering that question. And then this Cash is asking what's the minimum work experience requirement and average GMAT score?
Minimum work that we would want to see is 2 years. Average GMAT score, we would want to see you at our class profile average. So that's this year for the focus, that was a 615. It might be higher next year. If you're below that, I would probably encourage you to take the exam again.
Okay. Thanks for that, Kara. And, Shield is asking, will my work experience as a business owner be considered, since I've been managing my own company for 5 years from the age of 18, and I have completed my BBA?
Yeah, I think it depends upon what that company would be, right? So if you were selling, I don't know, like pet rocks online and doing $4 of business a year, that would not be the same as somebody who has an established company who, for example, we have a student right now who currently runs her own nonprofit, right? And she started that nonprofit as an undergraduate. She's an international student and she's been doing amazing work since that time and having a significant global impact with that nonprofit. We have another student that started her own company and has received a ton of venture capital and funding. She has established production to go live into industry. So those are very different examples than like I have a pet rock company. So it really just depends. Sometimes I'll see students say, yeah, I have my own company. And it's like selling t-shirts after a concert on the corner of the venue, right? It's really dependent.
Great, thanks. Oh, Kara, would you be able to put the slides on screen? Someone's asking about the contact information for your Michigan State.
Sure. Let me go back to that and present the slide. Let me see. It's lagging a little bit on my end. Give me just a moment.
Yeah, I noticed a lag on my side too. So
I know it wouldn't let me go back to just the last slide that I wanted.
yeah,
So I'm assuming, Chris, can you see the
yeah, I can
contact
see it.
information? Okay, perfect. So typically we ask to email mba@msu.edu because that's a triage email that the three of us are able to check, especially if one of us is on the road or sick. And then from that point on, whatever the question relates to, we can triage it to the right individual. So I always suggest that candidates email mba@msu.edu because it will get answered quicker than emailing just one of us individually.
Great. Thanks for that. Let me go to this next question. Yeah, I think there is a lag on my side. But this question is from Narendra. What about the PhD programs at Broad?
Yep. So I only oversee full time MBA admissions, so I cannot speak to PhD admissions whatsoever. We are, like I said, a huge institution with multiple different programs operating at one time. We do have PhD programs here at Broad. We do not have a PhD in business administration, though. So that tends to be something that students are interested in. But we have a PhD in accounting, a PhD in marketing. So we do have a list of all of the PhD programs that we offer at Broad, but also at Michigan State, available on our website.
Okay, great. Thanks. And then our next question is from Aditya. So, a U.S. citizen residing in India and completed schooling in India, should this person apply as a domestic applicant or international applicant?
That's a great question. So typically what happens is we require international students to apply by that deadline, that February 17th deadline, because they need to get their I-20 generated. And it can take quite a bit of time to get official documents from an international location. For example, I know in India specifically, sometimes it can take a month and a half to have official documents sent to us. I-20s will not be generated until we receive those official documents. And then from that point on, when you get an I-20, that's when you go to the embassy within your country and try to get an appointment for an education visa interview. So it takes a long time. We would never want to admit a student in May and not have them have enough time to get that. If you do not need an I-20 and you are a U.S. citizen or a perm res, then you can apply at the last deadline. However, please note that we still would need your official documentation from your undergraduate institution before the semester begins. So if you apply and you're admitted, you have that notification again end of April, early May, it would be on you to be very quick to get official transcripts into us.
Okay, thanks. And then the next question is from Michael. Does a frequent job change about 1 year on average affect admissions?
I think it depends how many years of work experience you have, right? If you were that candidate who mentioned 15 years of work experience and you've changed every single year over 15 years, that might be a bit concerning to the admissions committee, because we would wonder what the situation is, right? Maybe is it a personality or behavioral issues that you're changing every year? Is it, lack of commitment to the organization? So we could get worried about, is there going to be a lack of commitment to the MBA program? However, if you're a younger professional, right, and maybe you only have 3 years of professional work experience, that's not going to hinder typically any red flags. Because again, we know younger professionals are trying to figure out the world. They're frequently applying to different jobs and they haven't established themselves yet in industry.
Great. And then, Kishida is asking if I've already submitted my application with my GRE score, but end up retaking the GRE, can I submit a new score?
You can submit a new score as long as it's before the decision release deadline. Okay, so if you receive, let's say, a denied decision and you say, but wait, can you re-review my application because I have a higher GRE score? At that point, no. But let's say you applied for round 2 yesterday and the decision deadline isn't until the 31st of January, then yes, you could send us in an updated GRE score, because we haven't taken those applications yet to the admissions committee. So I typically say, if you are applying and you know that you're going to be taking a standardized test after the application deadline, please let us know so we can hold your application until we receive that test score. If we receive it even 2 days before the deadline's coming out, like January 29th, at that point, typically the admissions committee has already met, because we have to have a few days to process your admissions within the system. So it's a yes, but there needs to be some other actions too.
Great. Let's let's see. And I think I see a lot of the questions that have already been answered in the Q&A, which I'll be able to check real quick. I think we do still have time, 5 more minutes. Should we do like a rapid fire?
Sure.
What do you think would work best for you?
Yeah, rapid fire is fine. You can read them out to me, or I can go into the chat too and read them. Whatever works for you.
Why don't you go into the Q&A? That should be below that chat icon.
Yep, I see it, and it is just the unanswered ones, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Let's see. So this one's a good one. If I have a low GPA and a higher GMAT score. Yes, if you have a lower GPA, I highly suggest that you take a standardized test because that will help kind of offset the academic concerns that we have. Now, if you have a low GPA, I also suggest that you complete the optional 3 essay that we have in the application process, especially if those scores are qualitative or quantitative classes. If you failed college algebra 3 times, that's going to be a red flag regardless of what your GMAT or GRE score is. So it's always helpful to have that standardized test if you have a low GPA, but it's also extremely helpful to have an explanation why that GPA is low.
great.
That
Thanks,
feeds,
Kara.
yeah. I see that kind of feeds into the next one about GPA and years of work experience. If your GPA and GRE is not good, but you have years of work experience, that's concerning to us, right? Because again, when we're looking at MBA students, we're kind of looking for 3 things. The number one thing is academic success. So students can have multiple years of work experience, but if they can't be academically successful in the program, then we're not going to admit that student. So I would suggest that you retake a standardized test and showcase that you would be academically capable of the program.
Great. Thank you. So we're at 1:12. We have a hard stop in 3 minutes. Well, so I just want to say thank you, Karen, for taking the time to answer questions. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Is there any contact information or last minute words to provide?
Yeah, I just put in the Q&A, the MBA at msu.edu email address if there's more questions. And then I'll also put in our admissions checklist as well. And let me just pull that up here very quickly. When I jumped on, it closed out of all of my tabs that I had open. But this should be a really good resource for you as you navigate the admissions process here at Broad. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. So again, an easy checklist to see the materials that we need for admissions. We do have multiple events coming up too. So if you wanted to attend an event, I'll put that link in, and that will give you a chance to speak with current students, get a better insight about our program and a deeper lens. Okay?
Great. Yeah, thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Chris. Take care. Bye-bye.